Girls wear books to become love-brain women, because he's behaving differently than he used to. Father thought the girl's heart was broken by the crown prince, so he arranged a blind date between the best man and his daughter, but the girl just wants to be an empty house. The girl in the previous life has been depressed, walking on thin ice in an environment full of traps and deception. That's why she dreams of being a mean sidekick. Even if you're scolded by others. But it doesn't change the fact that you're born with a golden spoon in your mouth. Finally, one day, he was selected by the reincarnation truck, and I wake up dressed as the evil co-star of my dreams. Frowning brings a maid's sympathy. A hearty breakfast as soon as you wake up. The girl couldn't believe her dream had come true. And her original self is indeed a bad girl. After the engagement of the male and female protagonists, she made a pact with the demon to complete the blackening. Because of his extraordinary magical talent, once the most feared enemy of men and women. But Ibn didn't want to let himself end badly. She comes from a long line of wizards. Dad is the most powerful tower lord in the empire, and the head of the Assenholz family. And there are countless gemstone mines under the family name. With her impressive figure, beauty and magic don't need a man. Ibn lay in bed dreaming of his perfect future. All she had to do was applaud the sweet love of the two protagonists from afar. Stay away from the protagonists so you don't become a dark wizard. Then the maid whispered that the Duke was coming. Frightened, Ibn got up in a panic. Dad looked serious and asked Ibn if he hadn't reflected properly. It turns out that Ibn threw bombs at dating sites before he crossed over. So he was grounded for a week by the Duke's father. Ibn may be grounded, but he stays in his room, eats, drinks, and has fun. She couldn't help but wonder if her father hated her for being lazy. I'm quietly reflecting. But Dad doesn't believe his daughter will be quiet. Quickly call the assistant officer. Tell him to leave those matters to Ibn. Seeing the assistant trying to dissuade the Duke from being so hard on his daughter, Ibn wondered if he had to work overtime even if he crossed over. Ibn was relieved to learn that it was only a 6-hour day. Before he left, Dad demanded that it be done well, or she'll be removed from the family. It's not just my father and brother who despise me very much. Although the family doesn't seem to like themselves, but for Ibn, an orphan in a previous life, she's kind of happy to have a family. Fortunately, they didn't throw themselves out of the house. The Duke's jaw dropped when he received his daughter's work. Ben used a tabular record to intuitively know the sales volume of the business group. Even the Duke's father looked pleased. The assistant officer beside him even patted the rainbow fart and said that Ibn was very smart since childhood. The Duke suddenly realized something was wrong, so he called his daughter's maid. When the Duke asked about Ibn, the maid immediately complained in alarm that the young lady had been very depressed recently, 3 meals a day, and helped organize the desk in the office. The Duke's father was getting more and more flustered. My daughter never helps me with my work. And this kid's been eating 6 meals a day since he was a kid, so the Duke immediately searched his mind for the reason for his daughter's transformation. The Crown Prince must have dumped Ibn, and it's traumatizing her ego. He wondered if his daughter was still attracted to the Crown Prince. Little did I know that Ibn was eating fruit in his room at this time. After fruit, dessert. And then lie down and sleep. But the Duke's father has a deep hatred for the Crown Prince. His daughter was so beautiful, so noble, so passionate about him. He also deliberately dated the illegitimate daughter of another country. Angry, he slammed the table, thinking his daughter had gotten away with throwing bombs at him. Ibn, who had just been called by his father, quickly asked what had happened. She couldn't help but wonder if something was wrong with her writing. Tell your father you've worked hard. Hearing his daughter apologize, the Duke suspected that he had misheard. I quickly praised Ibn for his good work. Knowing it wasn't self-incriminating, Ibn's heart finally relaxed and he smiled brightly. But the Duke's old face is in a panic, because my daughter never cared about self-praise. And he always gets himself into trouble. In order to make myself a permanent home, squat, Ibn hastened to say that he would always reflect deeply in his room. Before he could finish, the Duke interrupted. Dad just wants you to reflect. She told Ibn she had bought an empty house for her to smash up. Assistant explained. The Duke has placed a seal around the house that won't affect anyone else. But now Ibn says she can't bear to destroy a house for no reason. Noticed Dad's determined look. Ibn tactfully admitted that he deserved punishment, so there's no need to destroy the house. But this behavior completely angered the Duke. He's completely convinced that the Crown Prince has turned his daughter. Fortunately, the assistant officer stopped the Duke in time, and the daughter is very much looking forward to the Duke's powerful magic performance. Make the Duke's dad a little embarrassed. Then the Duke's father told Ibn to say what he wanted. If you want to love, find a man who is 100 times better than the dog Crown Prince. Ibn said he wanted to learn. And it was unbelievable to everyone present. So the Duke prepared many books for his daughter. Back in his room, Ibn was reading and eating snacks. This kind of home-squatting life makes her fly. And then she started fantasizing that she could use magic like Dad. But she doesn't understand a thing about magic in books. Then let's get into practice. She confidently gestures to release magic. Just about to chant. A man opened the door without warning. The other party is the brother Baden who called Ibn Mad Dog in the original book. Ibn asked his brother what he was doing in a panic. It turns out Ibn has been actively organizing forms recently, and study classes, which led her brother to think she wanted to compete for the title. See yourself misunderstood. Ibn clenched his fists angrily and explained that he only wanted to help his brother protect the family. Baden never thought Ibn would help him. Then Ibn gave an example of how the interval between monster wars became shorter and shorter. Wars that used to be once every 10 years are now once every 5 years. Next time it'll be once every 3 years or even bigger. Brother knows this, but he still wants to ask Ibn where he came from. Helpless Ibn can only who himself is the result of studying history. See the data tables that are supposed to be true. Brother reluctantly agreed with this statement. But he still didn't believe that his sister would listen and help him. To dispel my brother's suspicions, Ibn put on a sad show. I just want to help my brother and father live a quiet life. And my brother was confused and asked what brother. Ibn called her brother again with a little impatience. Now my brother thinks his sister is crazy, so he immediately went to his father and asked about Ibn. The Duke's father jumped up. Do you think Ibn's weird, too? After all, the two had never been called brother or praised by Ibn, and Ibn's madness for knowledge made the teacher shiver. And after a discussion between father and son, the reason for Ibn's change is attributed to the Crown Prince. The Duke's father decided to introduce Ibn to a blind date. Thinking maybe dating a man 100 times more handsome than the Crown Prince, my daughter's mood will be much better. The two of them thought of Ibn's past dating experience and smiled grimly. A handsome man receives an invitation to the capital. The letter also included an old deed. It's the old days. Heir's father owed him a favor. A contract that promises anything. So even though the aide tried to dissuade Heirs from dating a notorious evil woman, but Heirs still insisted on going to the appointment. He also wanted to see how terrible the evil woman was. After that, the Ibn family took Ibn shopping. Ibn is shunned everywhere he goes. This made Ibn even more afraid to go out. The brother beside him also ridiculed Ibn's reputation. After getting off the carriage, Ibn is full of novelty to the busy shopping street. But my brother thought Ibn was like this because he hadn't been out for too long. This is where she dropped the bomb a while ago. Whispering into Ibn's ear, asking if he still wanted to drop the bomb. And Ibn's eyes. To the magnificent palace not far away. Soon a cloth covered her vision. Dad looked nervous and told Ibn not to stare at that place in the future. Even my brother said Ibn was too love-struck. At this time, Ibn realized that the two misunderstood that they were still in love with the Crown Prince, but Ibn's explanation seemed more like a pretense of indifference after being dumped. To make Ibn feel better, father took Ibn to the clothing store to buy clothes. The waiter's attitude was completely different from what Ibn remembered. Usually when a person comes in alone, they talk about themselves. Maybe Ibn was seen by everyone as a loner. And yet, in less than a second, father and brother told Ibn to hurry. He immediately ordered the clerk to take out all the clothes suitable for Ibn. Ibn smiled at this relief. It doesn't matter what other people think of you. As long as the family cares about themselves. And Ibn tried on a bunch of clothes. But every one of them looks brilliant on Ibn. This leaves Ibn with no choice. Both father and brother could not help but sigh that Ibn was the most beautiful child in the empire. Say what? Then the father points to the red heels. Ask the clerk to pack up everything except these dangerous shoes. After shopping at the clothing store, Father and brother fork over to the shop where Ibn used to go. Look at your father get something and say it's good for you. And brother let himself try this and try that. Ibn laughed inadvertently. Such a warm scene was something she had never experienced in her previous life, and father and brother noticed Ibn's smile to the bureau. Get close to Ibn like a dog. Father told Ibn that smile was just like mom's. Dad's words warmed Ibn's heart. At this time, my brother did not know why he proposed to go to tea. The tone of the two people singing made Ibn suspect that this was discussed in advance. Here we are. Cafe. Father ordered a lot of desserts. This makes Ibn a little helpless. Now she just wants to go back to her room and study. And I bought so many clothes, but I didn't get a chance to wear them. Father's angry smack on the table means there will be a chance. 3 days later, I introduced you to a good man, and the meeting place is this cafe. Ibn remembered that what his father had said before was actually serious. Before Ibn complains, my brother introduced the blind date. He's the head of the Duke of Heirs and a master swordsman. Ibn has heard of this man, too. It is said that he is the object of all the ladies' admiration, but she wondered if such a good fire. Why would you want to meet someone with a bad reputation like yourself? Father heard this and got up to teach the gossiper a good lesson. My brother also comforted Ibn that his condition was very good, seeing both of them trying to defend themselves and comfort themselves. Ibn was so moved that he could not speak. After that, my father and brother left early because of something. Ibn, who was just moved by his father and brother. I was immediately upset by the yellow hair in front of me. The yawn is lazy and the father's attitude is completely different. So Ibn had bad thoughts about teaching him a lesson. She said something about bugs on his arms. And then slapped him on the arm. I didn't expect that with a light touch, the other party would sit on the ground in pain. Ibn opened his hand and looked. She didn't expect her hand to have such strength. Suddenly Ibn was startled. She realized that her shadow had somehow become a weird, squirming mass of purple material. Even my brother went to settle accounts with the crown prince alone. But what he didn't expect. The crown prince heard that Heirs was coming to the capital. He had already guessed that the purpose of this trip was for Ibn. My brother doesn't know how to explain. The crown prince approached him. The arrogant comments started the reason why Ibn had been studying hard recently. He arrogantly thought Ibn was doing it to become crown princess. Then he pretended to regret that the position of the crown princess belonged to that princess. Angry brother is furious, but he reminded the crown prince not to worry about it. Ibn has moved on. And the crown prince thought his brother was being brave. He never thought that Ibn would not like him one day. Let my brother persuade Ibn to give up on himself. That narcissistic arrogance made my brother want to turn into a mad dog and tear him apart. Suddenly my brother noticed, there's a handprint on the tree next to it. So he took out his magic tool and tried to record it. But when he warned of the anomaly behind the crown prince, the handprints on the tree suddenly disappeared. At this time, the crown prince is still self-indulgent and asks his brother to persuade Ibn. Finally, my brother's face darkened. He told the crown prince not to bother. Ibn has forgotten about his highness, and neither father nor himself wanted Ibn to become crown princess. After saying that, he bent down and said goodbye without giving the crown prince a chance to react. Although my brother doesn't know if Ibn still admires the crown prince. But he decided that his sister would never have any contact with this scumbag again. Not long ago, Ibn discovered that his shadow had become a strange purple substance. In a panic, she stomped on shadow. Unexpectedly, I heard that the other party would also say harsh words, so Ibn made up a few more feet. That's how the shadow got back to normal. But when Ibn asked Goldie what had just happened, he saw nothing. And after Ibn fought off the monster, a wounded man appeared at the palace and left his fingerprints on a tree. Ibn, returning home from shopping, gave the maid a piece of lace. She sang and danced and said thank you 300 times. And then Ibn started going through the files. I'm looking for information about shadow monsters. Ibn was a little sad to think that someone was trying to kill him. But she looked through the book and couldn't find anything. So she thought maybe Ibn's original self would know something. She casually asked the maid if she remembered. I've told you not to move. As expected, the maid immediately became nervous and assured herself that she had not touched it. The Cannonball Workshop, which means the locker on the right side of the table in the artifact lab. Ibn smiled as he knew the location. Tell the maid not to let anyone touch it. The maid who received the order said she would follow the lady's previous instructions. Any intruders you see, you hit back with this earring bomb. Ibn looked at the harmless maid and couldn't help but feel that she was indeed Ibn's maid. In the middle of the night, Ibn came to the shell lab with his hands and feet. And found that the structure inside was completely different from what he had imagined. Neat test tubes and magic potions everywhere. When she finds the table, the maid said she'd have found a diary and a book hidden in a drawer. So she was going to read what was written in the diary first. But she couldn't open it with brute force. She could only turn her attention to another book. When she flipped through the contents of the book, surprised to discover that this is a book about magical memory loss. Which means Ibn has the disease and is looking for a cure alone. And Ibn learned from the book's contents. I was unable to use magic some time ago, which is also the cause of this disease. Fortunately for the bean, Ibn discovered the key to the cure of this disease is to insist on drinking a powder from a high-grade magic stone. However, this magic stone is ridiculously expensive. Just a kilo costs 10 billion gold coins. The next day was the date for Ibn and heirs. Ayres was dressed early and ready to go. Handsome and upright posture makes the servants who serve move to tears. Ibn, on the other hand, seemed preoccupied. She asked the maid for details of her own property, but I was told that my lady's fortune was spent on the magic mercantile corps, which means Ibn doesn't own anything. After Ibn realized he was poor. She's getting nervous. She's being threatened. What if they find out they can't do magic again? So she asked the maid for magic communication tools. After communicating with the gem merchant group, knowing that the price of the magic stone is 1 gram, 20 million gold coins, and basically there are prices but no market, depressed Ibn arrives at the rendezvous. Still thinking about selling his clothes for money. She didn't even hear what people were saying. Until I was alerted by Ayres' call. I realized I was on a blind date. Even though he's a gorgeous guy. I also want to take the initiative to propose the next time to meet. But the other party must have been tricked into coming by his father, so maybe it's best for both parties to end the date quickly. So Ibn decided to do something to scare Ayres away. She spread her hands and smiled brightly. Ask if they'd like to lend you some money. Thinking that this behavior of his will definitely make the other party speechless and leave angrily, and I hear them ask me how much they need. In a panic, Ibn said he needed 20 billion gold coins urgently, and then I saw Ayres pulling something out of the lining. See each other take out pen. Ibn subconsciously thought the sword master was going to kill him with this. But Ayres was just brushing and writing on paper. Ibn noticed at this point that Ayres' eyelashes were beautiful. And the hair looks especially soft. Seeing such a handsome face made her relax. Soon she noticed that his fingers were also slender and beautiful. Following her gaze, she noticed that the other party had actually circled the check. Ibn, come on. Ayres is serious. She rushed forward to stop him. But accidentally held each other's hands tightly. This scene made both sides stunned for a while. Ibn threw his hands out hurriedly. And then he said to Ayres, although I've heard that the Duke is very kind. But you shouldn't lend money so easily. The Duke smiled. Then he explained that he was not lending it to Miss Rashleigh. Mademoiselle is the daughter and son of the Athenholtz family, and the money is his personal property. Even if you are cheated in the end, there is nothing you can do. Ibn whispered to remind the blind date that it was so strange that the first reaction should be to run away. Ayres put down the teacup in his hand. And then, with his eyes fixed on Ibn, he leaned in front of him and whispered to Ibn, I don't think you're a strange person. Their eyes met briefly. Ibn stood up shyly and said goodbye. And the Duke kindly offered to take Ibn home. He said he wanted to know more about Ibn. Although Ibn wanted to say yes, but worried that her status as a bad girl would cause trouble for the Duke, bowed and refused the Duke's offer. Then the Duke asked Ibn if he would grant him a request. Next time we meet, we'll call each other by their first names. He took Ibn's hand. My lords call me Ludnane. Then he kissed Ibn lightly on the back of his hand. At that moment, Ibn's heart finally began to beat. Her heartfelt smile responds to the Duke's request. Yes, Lord Ludnane. The Duke was stunned. After the blind date, Ibn came to a nearby square. I've had a very short and happy time with the Duke. But the Duke is an existence beyond his reach and will never see him again. Then Ibn saw someone approaching her. Judging by the blonde hair, it must be the crown prince. You really want to see me on a blind date? This is the last person Ibn wanted to meet. The crown prince was adopted by the present queen. Therefore, he was particularly concerned about his own reputation and the dignity of the royal family, and that led him to dislike the infamous Ibn. He never wore even purple and silver jewelry similar to Ibn. But now the crown prince is flirting with Ibn like a cowherd. As Ibn saluted the crown prince, she carefully observed him. In the novel, the crown prince is a handsome man, but Ibn had just met a more perfect man and thought the crown prince was too ordinary. And Ibn's careful observation became a pleading look in the eyes of the crown prince. Well, I'm in your way. I'm leaving. The crown prince couldn't figure out how he couldn't attract Ibn. See Ibn say goodbye to himself and leave. In desperation, he grabbed Ibn's hand and wouldn't let her go. This rude behavior surprised Ibn. Your Highness, are you holding my hand now? The crown prince let go of his hand. Ibn saw a growing crowd of onlookers. Thinking that if they had a showdown in public, the crown prince would understand. So she told the crown prince that she had forgotten about his highness. I will not stand in your way from now on. And apologized to the crown prince for his past actions. But this greasy blonde guy doesn't seem to understand human language. He told everyone that Ibn's recent efforts were aimed at becoming the crown princess. Even Ibn is not happy in front of this shameless butter. And heard the other party pull Duke airs. Ibn was so angry that his whole body began to tremble. Just then the Duke came to the rescue and kindly helped Ibn put on his coat. Then he shot a cold glance at the crown prince. And learned it was Duke heirs. The crown prince's expression instantly turned ugly. When the three-person situation forms a triangular stable structure, the people around immediately started whispering. Some people even say that true love is between the Duke and the crown prince. Evil Ibn is just another woman. Ibn was speechless and wanted to start bombing. Seemed to sense that Ibn was in a bad mood. The Duke motioned to take Ibn away to a quiet place. Claiming to have just prepared a gift for you. Ibn guessed that the other party was deliberately trying to help him out. And she had an idea. Intimate to take the Duke's arm and tell the crown prince. I'm still dating the Duke. I'm leaving to spend some quality time with him. But the Duke didn't expose it either. Instead, he held Ibn's hand. Prove her relationship with Ibn, just like she said. The crown prince frowned. Watching the two of them walk away hand in hand, somehow, he felt a sense of frustration that he couldn't accept because of his arrogance. Ibn thanked the Duke. In the future, I will find a way to repay my kindness. She knew that the Duke had only come on a blind date at her father's request. But because of his own reasons, there are so many incidents for nothing. The Duke was lost in thought. Ibn thought he was upset. But the Duke strode forward. In an instant, a steady and mature handsome face was stuck in front of himself. See those gentle hands. Gently ruffle your hair. The girl closed her eyes tightly, expecting and fearing. Then the Duke gently plucked the fallen leaves from Ibn's hair. And then answer questions that are not relevant to Ibn. Didn't we say we'd call you by your name? But Ibn was still absorbed in what the Duke had just done. Seeing that the other party is still a calm and steady expression, Ibn blamed this behavior in his heart for making him misunderstand. And when he got home, the Duke couldn't calm down. Unknowingly add milk to the coffee. All I can think about is Ibn's eyes. Even the words of the adjutant were ignored by him directly. All of a sudden, the Duke asked if the adjutant had said he was handsome before the blind date. The unknown adjutant said that he is handsome now and will be handsome in the future. This answer did not satisfy the Duke. How am I supposed to believe that your taste isn't ordinary? Then he took the initiative to mention that during the dating process, Ibn took great care of himself. The adjutant wanted to say that the Duke must have been mistaken, but was interrupted directly by the other party. Then the Duke told the adjutant that he was hearing strange voices in his head. I don't know why I can hear Ibn calling his name. It makes my head so messed up. The adjutant directly asked the Duke if the morning gift had been delivered. The Duke suddenly remembered. When I was chasing after my daughter and wanted to give her a gift, I accidentally saw Ibn crying in front of the crown prince. Ibn apologizes to himself afterwards. In an instant, he imagined that the male and female met the crown prince who had long loved him. Because it was too painful, she asked her to flee the scene without liking herself. So he told the adjutant he wouldn't be returning to the estate for a while, and ordered him to investigate whether the male and female recently owed a large debt. He wanted to know if the Ascentholds family, as one of the richest families in the empire. Why is Ibn so desperate for such a large sum of money? The Duke looked out of the window and thought of his daughter's gemstones, and his pupils were like the sunset. He suddenly regretted that he had not prepared a more expensive gift. Little did he know that the magic stone ring he gave was exactly what Ibn needed. Ibn was moved to tears when he saw this magic stone of about 10 grams. She couldn't help but exclaim that the Duke was the most perfect man in the world. Even the gifts are exactly what they need. Suddenly father and brother burst into Ibn's room. The reason is that the two heard that the crown prince appeared at the blind date scene in Ibn, but Ibn was more worried about his father and brother. Recently, both of them have been so tired due to their busy work. Ibn's concern made them feel even more guilty. Ibn is suffering outside and you're worried about them. Father apologizes for sending daughter on blind date. The daughter met the crown prince. Ibn comforted his father that he was fine. I just feel wrong that the Duke let him go on a blind date with someone like me. This is unacceptable to my father and brother. In their eyes, Ibn was the best and kindest child in the family. Ibn smiled reassuringly. And then, please, Dad wants to forget everything and start over. Dad and brother agreed. Instead of wasting time on relationships, invest it. How did I expect Ibn to directly say that he has no money to start a career now? Ask her father if he can lend her 10 million gold coins and return it with interest in the future. Brother, it's just money for a few clothes, so I plan to give it directly to my sister. But Ibn refused. She'll officially issue an IOU to borrow money, to increase my trust in my father and brother. The father realized that his daughter was serious this time and agreed. Their family isn't just a family of wizards. And the owner of the Holds Mercantile Corps. It's a good opportunity for my daughter to learn how to run a business. In the evening my father called my brother and told him. Ibn didn't talk about dating except for business. This made my brother very surprised. He carefully reminded his father, a man's heart doesn't change that easily. Maybe she's just pretending to put away her unrequited love for the crown prince. Father heard the crown prince's face change cold again, only because the queen adopted him. Adrian just became crown prince. This position could change at any time. If he steps down from his crown, he won't ignore our family anymore. My brother obviously didn't expect my father to intervene in the dispute over the heir to the throne for Ibn. After all, the Athenholtz family has never interfered with royalty since ancient times. Father explained that this is only one of them. The main reason is that the princess brought by the crown prince is too strange. My brother also noticed that on the battlefield, the magic healing abilities used by the princess far exceed the ordinary level. Then the father ordered his brother to investigate the princess, and contact the third prince. Ex and current invite girls on dates at the same time. But when Ibn saw the maid's letter, and she's not happy. He even turned pale in an instant. Cold sweat kept coming out of his face, because she's the empire's most notorious villain. She guessed that the Duke must have felt wronged by her blind date. So he sued himself. The crown prince, on the other hand, sent a letter of responsibility for his past crimes. I've been a little overzealous in the past. But now the ladies are kinder than the nuns of the convent. Ibn calmed down and decided to read the Duke's letter first. Thinking that the Duke would at best ask himself to return the ring. Because the Duke was gentle with himself that day. So Ibn opened the envelope and read it. I didn't think the Duke was just worried in his letter that he wouldn't like the gift. And invited Ibn to the opera at the end. The maid joked that the Duke must be infatuated with the young lady. Tell Miss to reply quickly and accept it, but Ibn was prepared to refuse. She decided that the Duke had been asked by his father. So I wrote to myself as a courtesy. Although she really didn't want to give up on this perfect man. And the crown prince's letter was a simple read. She was invited to a tea party hosted by the princess. He even told me not to use magic when he came. Such behavior is tantamount to treating her as a potential criminal. Besides, I told him I wasn't interested in the crown princess anymore, and you keep bothering yourself like this. Ibn thinks the crown prince is the worst scum in the world. It's tea party day. The crown prince looked around at the aristocratic ladies present, but I never found Ibn. For a moment he was devastated. It's obvious that in the past, as long as you are where you are, men and women will try to get close to themselves. Think back to the day Duke Ayres took Ibn. he couldn't help but wonder if Ibn wasn't trying to get his attention. At this time, the woman on the side took the arm of the crown prince. The other party is the Princess Cordelia of the neighboring Malay royal family. The crown prince introduced the princess to the crowd, who had saved his life by restoring magic. Everyone instantly turned into a princess's little licking dog and began to flatter. Then someone mentioned the duke's blind date with the evil daughter Ibn. And the princess also noticed that the crown prince's face instantly changed ugly, so she began to praise the other ladies for their good skin care. Successfully changed the subject. Meanwhile, Ibn is out shopping for rhodia grass. It's a new project she's been thinking about lately. This herb's primary function is as a fever reliever. Although there are many materials on the market that work better. But rhodia grass is cheap and can be monopolized with limited capital. And Ibn learned another function of it from the original. A skin disease of unknown origin will infect future nobles. And the illegitimate princess relies on this herb. Successfully turned around his unfavorable situation. The princess at that time distributed rhodia grass for free. But Ibn wasn't going to do it. She was prepared to make the most of what she learned from the novel, 20 billion gold coins for himself. And in order to sell at a higher price, Ibn plans to package rhodia grass as a premium. Pure natural handmade cosmetics that can cure skin diseases. After getting off the carriage, Ibn glanced casually in the direction of the palace. The thought of the crown prince having a tea party made her angry. I'm getting ready to go to work on something, but the wind blew dust into my eyes, and the duke caught her in tears. Men are the dream lovers of all women in the empire. You can attract the attention of countless women when you go out. Even an 80-year-old man has to sigh at his handsome. Such a perfect man. He fell hopelessly in love with the most notorious evil woman. The two of them looked at each other for a moment. The duke couldn't resist his joy. Although the recent invitation was rejected by the male and female, but this encounter really made me happy. Ibn was like a bad kid caught cheating, sweating. Tell the duke he has some business to attend to here. Trying to escape. Unexpectedly, the other party also said that he had something to do in this street, hoping to travel with Ibn. This surprised Ibn. The invitation in the second letter was entrusted by my father, so what's with the duke's invitation? Ibn was suddenly wary of the duke. Because in the original Duke of Ayres was simply mentioned and never actually appeared. Which means there's a huge discrepancy between the plot and the original. But this novel loves to twist. Like one's own helper betraying oneself, so Ibn lifted his hair and pretended to be impatient. I hope the duke can find someone else to shop with. But as soon as he finished speaking, the duke turned into a lost puppy. He hurried over to Ibn. It's just an excuse for me to be with you. Just pretend you don't know and promise me, okay? Ibn's heart exploded when he heard that. Even the yellow-haired guards were shocked by the duke's behavior. It's too cruel to complain about your parents. After that, the duke went shopping with Ibn smoothly, and let Goldie play by himself. Before Ibn could worry about being killed without an escort. I heard the duke ask why he brought his guards. Ibn realized he was a great wizard by design. No need for guards. It's a given. Ibn's unnatural explanation never hurts to be careful. The duke nodded. After all, there's a little too much garbage in this world. Ibn thought he was talking about himself when he heard trash. Nervous diversion means you're going shopping later. The duke echoed that the male and female liked shopping and remembered it himself. For some reason, Ibn felt like he was being interrogated. I remember bad things from the past. She subconsciously defended herself. Now, not as extravagant as before. Even a little celebratory luxuries. But Duke Wen began to panic. So you don't like jewelry, dresses, shoes, bags? He sighed in disappointment. You should know more about male and female gifts. Ibn suddenly remembered the magic stone bracelet the Duke had given him, so the Duke misunderstood that he didn't like his gift. She laughed uncontrollably. And tell the Duke how much she loved his gift. After all, it's a magic stone that cures magical memory loss. In the process, the Duke kept asking Ibn for all kinds of information. It's like trying to figure yourself out and make a book of illustrations. Still on the way, warm compliments. Ibn's even prettier than before. Ibn managed to suppress his inner agitation. I was just about to respond by complimenting the Duke, only to be interrupted by other passing nobles. The other party's face was full of smiles when he saw Duke Ayres trying to get his daughter to meet the Duke. but the Duke only greeted politely and hurried to leave. Ibn's strange Duke, just cold attitude. She thought the Duke was especially kind to everyone. I didn't expect the Duke to suddenly say hi to Ibn. I'm sorry, I have too many problems. But I'm just curious about you. This made Ibn have to guess. Does the Duke really have special feelings for himself? Look at that confident, handsome face. Ibn suddenly realized. A notorious character like myself shouldn't have such a sweet plot. Usually passers-by are ashamed to see Ibn. The waiter can also say bad things about her without any restraint. This time with the Duke, the other party has been trying to get close to him. And always asking personal questions. You're just curious about her. So she thinks he's pretending to love her. In fact, the Duke contacted himself for another reason. However, the Duke is just a hopeless love brain. Ibn glanced at the man beside him unnaturally. The other party has been exuding a strong force that he cannot refuse. She surmised that the Duke was a member of the Royal Secret Service. It's an elite organization dedicated to investigating undisclosed cases, and it's said to have close ties to the four dukes. Ibn thought to himself. Except for the blind date, it was my father's plan. The actions of the other dukes may have been the work of a spy organization. In the original work, the Crown Prince also monitored himself because of his original malice. But thinking of this, Ibn was suddenly taken into the arms of a man. The firm hand held Ibn firmly and almost knocked her head off. Fortunately, the Duke pointed to the tree in front of Ibn and explained that he was afraid of hitting it. Ibn managed to convince his Duke to do so. To get rid of my own guard. And she was determined to clean up her bad girl reputation. Soon they arrived at a luxurious makeup shop. Ibn selects goods while. And she's checking out this place for her cooperation. At this time, the Duke suddenly said that the male and female are actually very beautiful without makeup. Sweet words make Ibn uneasy. Ibn, however, was quick to adjust. Think it's the Duke's secret jab to remind himself that he didn't like luxury goods long ago. Fortunately, Ibn also found that the goods in this store were indeed too gorgeous. Then she asked to go to other shops to have a look. The two of them just stepped into the store. The lady in the shop saluted politely to the two of them. Ibn was surprised that the other party did not despise him because of his reputation as a bad girl, and he can accurately pronounce her and the Duke's names. Soon Ibn smelled a refreshing fragrance emanating from the store. She guessed that all kinds of herbs were added to these cosmetics. Then she held up one and asked about the ingredients. The other party confidently explained the specific source of the fragrance and introduced it. The store is full of functional cosmetics, and the ability to process incense is very outstanding. And then he put a little on Ibn's hand. Feel this unique fragrance. Ibn believes that the cosmetics of radia grass can be successfully produced here. Suddenly she turned her eyes to the idle Duke. When their eyes met, the Duke tilted his head and wondered what Ibn wanted. Little did I know that Ibn was brainstorming at this time. She thought the Duke was spying on her. But the crime should be attributed to the Crown Prince who gave the order. So Ibn waved to the Duke to come over. The other party immediately put down his hand and walked towards Ibn. Obedience is like a puppy. She ordered the Duke to open his hands. And then I'm gonna put hand cream on him myself. At the same time, she also sighed in her heart that these hands are really beautiful. If there's anyone who can date a guy like that, we're gonna grow old together, and we're gonna drop bombs on her. And the Duke stayed put after Ibn's hand cream. Ibn realized his rudeness. Panic explained that he wanted to repay the last gift as much as possible. He ran outside while talking. She's stupid to give hand cream to a man who practices his sword every day. In desperation, Duke said that practicing sword every day requires more hand care. That's why Ibn stopped running. However, the news of their date spread to the tea party at the palace. And happened to be overheard by the passing Crown Prince. Hearing this, the Crown Prince immediately lost his composure. He began to think about the purpose and reason of dating. In the end, narcissistic, he convinced himself, they're both trying to make him jealous. But he doesn't know that in his heart, the past has done many evil things. Notorious villains have taken on a growing role. And the Crown Prince's act of leaving the princess alone. And it made the princess hate Ibn even more. She clearly remembered that in the past, the Crown Prince would not even look at that male daughter. But from the Crown Prince's behavior and expression, she could clearly feel jealousy. The princess picked up a flower with her bloody hand. without pity, watching the flower gradually zero in his hand. Just then, the princess accidentally saw the young Duke of the Ascendholtz family in the courtyard. It was the only one in the war who alienated her after seeing her healing magic. So she decided to use this man to win back His Highness' heart. As soon as he got home, the Duke asked the adjutant how to please the girls. The adjutant told him first that not long ago, the Duke commissioned an inquiry into the affairs of his daughter. The result is that the male and female do not owe anything. The Duke, who heard this, fell into an ice cave. He doesn't know how to talk to someone who doesn't need money, who doesn't need luxuries. The adjutant advised Duke Cheng to give up because the princess said nothing, which means she's politely refusing. To put it bluntly, Your Grace, you've been killed. But Ibn sent gifts. The adjutant's expression changed immediately. They built you a high wall, but they left you room. She is indeed a veritable evil girl. When the Duke heard the adjutant speak ill of his sweetheart, he immediately warned the adjutant darkly, don't talk about boys and girls. So the adjutant put it another way. Maybe the Dukes are just raising the Duke's fish. See Duke confused. The adjutant explained that it was a popular expression in the capital. It means that although there is no desire to further develop the relationship, but I still see people who like me a lot. But the Duke was not angry at all. Instead, I'm looking for all kinds of fragments in my memory that I just dated with men and women, and then the non-stop expression. If it's Ibn's fish pond, it doesn't matter. He thinks Ibn, who's now heartbroken by the trash crown prince, has completely closed the heart door. So he solemnly asked the adjutant to send a bundle to the third prince to change the situation. In fact, the Duke, who had just received a gift from Ibn, was still beaming. Smell the hand cream from time to time. I heard the male and female say that the fragrance of roses suits me very well, and the Duke was so happy he couldn't close his mouth. Looking at the smiling male and female beside him, the Duke is trying to send out an invitation. I was interrupted by my brother, who suddenly appeared. My brother warned Ibn with a vigilant face. The news of her engagement with the Duke has spread throughout the palace. Then he turned his head and stared at the Duke. 5 minutes later, we'll go through the formalities and bow to the Duke. The Duke, who doesn't know the truth, greets his brother-in-law warmly, shaking hands with brother-in-law, complimenting each other for their resemblance to Ibn, and more handsome than they say. The fierce brother was immediately weakened by this inexplicable praise. Ibn could not help but sigh that the Duke's charm could be eaten by both men and women. But when my brother heard that the Duke wanted to invite him to dinner with Ibn, he's on his guard again. And then decisively refused the Duke's kindness. He explained to the Duke that his sister, determined to start a new life. Don't mess with her out of curiosity. She already said she'd never fall in love again. Concentrate on improving yourself. Ibn hated to admit it. After all, she's not really dating the Duke. But when she sees the cute Duke, she's so ashamed she can't speak. So the brother took his own initiative and left with his sister. When he got home, Ibn complained to his brother that he wasn't dating. Brother doesn't believe it at all. He clearly saw the two of them talking sweetly together. Ibn joked that his brother had just been fascinated by the Duke and could not speak. He even showed an excited expression. It turns out that the reason why my brother stopped the Duke and Ibn from falling in love was still the crown prince. He couldn't bear to see his love-minded sister go through another abandonment. When I think of the crown prince's son of a bitch, he gets angry. If it wasn't for his identity, I would have sent him on his way. Then my brother suddenly remembered, when he used magic tools to record strange handprints in the courtyard of the palace. He's dressed for confirmation. Little did he know that a giant bug had appeared behind him. Just now, brother was about to check the information recorded in the bracelet. Accidentally attacked by a giant monster. While dodging the attack, the bracelet rolled to the door of the room. Then my brother started chanting magic. Enchant yourself with defensive magic, hoping to last until help arrives. But this monster used magic to cut off the connection between this place and the outside world in advance. Moreover, the monsters are powerful and defensive magic cannot last long. Then Ibn seemed to hear something. After questioning the maid, she claims she didn't hear anything. Just when Ibn thought it was an illusion, a loud noise reached her ears. So she's ready to go find the source of the sound. I found my brother's room. Ibn stuck to the door to see what his brother was up to. She was startled. He ordered the maid to call for help, because she's pretty sure she heard the sound of monsters and magic spells. When she opened the door, the situation in the room startled her. When my brother saw Ibn coming, he asked her to use attack magic to assist him. What he didn't know was that Ibn couldn't use magic. At this moment, the monster spat poison at Ibn, but Ibn was not harmed. It turned out that her brother helped her use defensive magic to block this attack. However, the next moment, my brother's defense has been broken by the monster. Ibn knew that his defense had broken because he had taken away his brother's magic. She tried to help her brother, but her body shook uncontrollably. And the brother on the other side is still fighting with the monster. Ibn has always been a good magician in his heart. Perhaps it was because she had seen the monster for the first time that her body stiffened, but my brother alone can't destroy the monster. So he yelled at Ibn to cheer her up. This gap was captured by the monster. He's paralyzed by the demon. Soon he was trapped by the monster. Maybe I'll have to explain myself here, but he tried to get Ibn to escape anyway. At this critical moment, Ibn noticed the bracelet at his feet, so she threw all her might at the monster. The bracelet hits the monster's head. Ibn wanted his brother to run away. As a result, the monster was directly hit by her and its entire body fell to the ground, and then at the call of the maid. Help is late. And when the monster falls, princess who controls monsters with magic balls in the distance, and that's why she's been hurt. She's been bleeding, because the end of the contract with the monster will shorten her lifespan. She couldn't believe that the bracelet alone could kill her monster. The last time she summoned a shadow, she was defeated. This time, Baden was summoned to attack a truly advanced monster. Her hair stood on end. When he used black magic to cut the connection. Why do men and women still appear in time? It's like she knew her plan early on. But she gritted her teeth and thought it was just a coincidence. It's just that the cost of this coincidence is too great. So she was going to test him out to see if he really knew anything. The father on the other side saw the monster that attacked his daughter's son. He still couldn't believe it was in his house. Brother nodded to confirm that he suddenly appeared after taking a shower, maybe through the window into his room. But Ibn says the windows were closed tight. Could it be that this monster followed me all the way home from the battlefield? But my father didn't think it was possible. Because these monsters are contracted by black mages at the cost of their lives. They'll form a strong bond. They can't be too far apart. Which means the dark magician is in the capital. Ibn became nervous at the news. Her life could be threatened at any moment. She guessed that the shadow monster that attacked her. Also by a dark magician. Thinking that Dad was the Tower Lord, he should know something about black magic. Just hesitate to ask. Suddenly it occurred to me that Ibn in the plot would eventually become a black magician. She couldn't help but think of a connection. Maybe the original became a dark magician not for himself. It made her cry. I thought if I didn't be a bad girl, I wouldn't be evil. Then my father asked me how the monster was destroyed. Brother pulled out a deformed bracelet. Explained that Ibn defeated the monster with this one blow. Dad looked incredulous and asked if Ibn was real. After learning that this was true, he asked why he didn't use magic. Ibn didn't know what to say, wondering if he should take this opportunity to confess. The best ending is that my father immediately buys 20 billion magic stones for himself. Think of yourself in the hearts of the two people trust is not enough or give up. And at that moment, my brother took the initiative to take it. He said he was caught by a monster. If magic was used in that situation, it would hurt him. But Ibn knew that before that there are many opportunities to cast magic. Did my brother know he couldn't use magic, so he was protecting himself? Then the brother smiled knowingly at Ibn. Confirms that he was protecting himself. This touched Ibn a little. It turns out that my brother has always been very good to himself. After hearing what my brother said, my father believed Ibn used brute force to kill the monster, because it's obviously inherited from the mother. Ibn's mother was a beautiful knight. Once barehanded in a royal hunt. Caught a brown bear and won his father's favor. Hearing his parents' strange love experiences silenced both Ibn and his brother. Father's embarrassed cough indicated that he would investigate the matter later. Then my brother suggested that there was another important matter. And that's why Duke Ayres has been hanging around Ibn and harassing her a lot. Rumors of dating even spread in the palace and college. Because Duke Ayres is a central air conditioner. So I'm worried that Ibn will be deceived by him. Ibn was full of question marks from his brother, trying to explain that you and the Duke are innocent. But father has ordered a strict ban on Duke and Ibn. If he's still trying to make eyes at Ibn, he's not gonna let him go. At this moment, a report from the attendant came from outside the door. He said he had a visitor. This news surprised both my brother and my father. This is the first time Ibn's ever been visited. At this moment, the princess was holding a gift box at the door of the mansion. Ibn, watch carefully when you drink tea. It is said that the matriarch is as lovely as the spring sun. Just seeing her makes you feel warm. She also has the ability to calm monsters. Now such magical figures appear before Ibn's eyes. But she doesn't remember that in the original. The two of them were silent for a long time. The female host finally put down the teacup and talked about the topic. Thank you for your hospitality. Actually, I thought you wouldn't see me. And I know you don't like me. The female host opened her mouth and smelled green tea. Ibn couldn't help but be speechless, but in order for her to let go of her hostility, Ibn admitted he didn't like princesses in the past, but now there's no reason to hate it. But the female owner's eyes suddenly filled with tears, asking Ibn like he doesn't understand human language. Does this mean that you are quite certain of winning the crown prince's heart? Let Ibn just stay put. The woman is not really sweet. She's here for 3 reasons. The first is to confirm how well men and women know themselves. The second was to destroy Baden's bracelet, which recorded his fingerprints. The third is to make it impossible for men and women to get in their way. And she's telling lies so she doesn't get suspected. So she immediately brought up the matter of her daughter's blind date with Duke Ayres. And then you pretend to be sad. I thought you were trying to forget the crown prince. I thought it was because you approved of my relationship with His Highness. Ibn calmly responded that he did not have feelings for the crown prince. Then why do you deliberately stand out in front of His Highness? The princess has chosen an area close to the palace for her date with the duke. So that the news can spread in a flash. I hear it's a common social practice. Gossip with influential members of the opposite sex to attract attention. Your Highness, do you admit that in order to gain the crown prince's attention, using the innocent Duke of Ayres? The woman's words are true. Are smoke bombs to get what they want. But it made Ibn a bad person. At the same time, it also made the father who hid at the door eavesdropping explode. Fortunately, his brother stopped him from rushing in and tearing green tea. Brother advised father to calm down, because if he intervenes, it'll make Ibn look worse. But my father couldn't swallow it. Ask if there is any news about looking for the third prince some time ago. The third prince on the other side has already. I received letters from my father and Duke Ayres, but he did not hesitate to burn all the letters. He was not prepared to have any further contact with the dukes, because he has to protect his own and his mother's comfortable life. 18 years ago, the queen of the empire lost 2 sons. Without an heir, she adopted the 4th Prince Adrian as her adopted son, and make him crown prince. But according to the order of seniority, it should be the 3rd prince. Even the ministers are talking. Why did the empress give up the talented 3rd prince? He chose the ordinary 4th prince as crown prince. So the ministers advised the emperor. Later, the 3rd prince was summoned by the emperor because of this matter, but the emperor said the 3rd prince looked haggard. Tell him to go to the doctor and get his medicine. The doctor told the 3rd prince not to tell anyone. The young 3rd prince immediately understood what this medicine was. He was scared, but he didn't have a choice. But nothing happened after he drank the drug. The bottle is filled with ordinary water. And his mother suddenly vomited blood and fainted, although he survived. But the mother also suffered mental regression due to the sequelae of poison. Therefore, the current 3rd prince does not want to fight for any inheritance rights, not just because his life was bought at the expense of his mother. And in the empire, the emperor and the queen are the same person. There's no way he's going against the emperor. Not long ago, my father was refused to meet by the 3rd prince on the grounds of ill health. My father was angry that he did not fight. He believed that the 3rd prince knew how to be weak. I can't keep the peace. Just when he was laughing at the 3rd prince's naivety in his heart, and ran head-on into the long-awaited Duke of Ayres, Ayres told the other party he was in the way. After the father accepts the Tao, Duke Ayres deliberately identified the other party. If it isn't Lord Devil Tower, it's been a long time. Who knew my father didn't know the man in front of me? And that's when Ayres introduced himself. My name is Ludna in Ayres. Then bowed politely under his father's surprised gaze. Embarrassed praise from father, Ayres. He grew up to be a handsome young man like his predecessor. Ayres thanked his father. The Devil Tower master is still the same as the one I met when I was a child, doesn't age at all. But this extraordinary appearance and excellent eloquence, let the father not be vigilant. He suddenly regretted letting his daughter go on a blind date with such a glib man. And that's when Ayres took the initiative to make his intentions known. He wanted to find out if there was any magic in the magic tower suitable for beginners, but when my father heard it, he was confused. I've heard that Duke Ayres has achieved extraordinary swordsmanship. Why study magic? And that's exactly what Ayres set up. He mentioned his trip to the capital. I saw many convenient magic tools, and marvel at the magic of the magicians, explaining that learning magic can heal. It can also be useful in the battlefield. As the guardian of the northern part of the Ayres family, God should be the first to make changes. From time to time in his speech, he emphasized his vision of magic, to make my father less wary of Ayres. He didn't expect a family obsessed with sword would. There's such a thoughtful family head. Then Ayres thanked his father sincerely. The Tower Lord has always helped his family a lot. Father waved his hand repeatedly. That was all he had to do. I have unconsciously identified with this humble junior. Then Duke Ayres began to praise his daughter without restraint. The sons and daughters of the Assenholz family are also related. The Lord of the Magic Tower is also a very outstanding and beautiful lady. When I hear my daughter praised by outsiders, my father completely let down his guard against Duke Ayres. I feel that the other party is really too discerning, but the next moment, Ayres had a sharp look in his eye. He took the initiative to mention the fact that the Crown Prince abandoned his daughter. To be honest, it's an asshole to hurt such a good man and woman. Sure enough, my father immediately agreed that the Crown Prince was a scum, pulling Duke Ayres and whispering to each other. The Crown Prince's character is very bad. Ever since he came back as a war hero, he's been arrogant. The two of them chattered for a while. All the words my father had hidden in his heart for a long time came out. He couldn't say how comfortable it was, but he still doesn't like it. Invite Duke Ayres to his house for dinner tonight. After they said goodbye to each other, Ayres clenched his fists and looked forward to dinner tonight. On the other hand, the princess is still speaking against Ibn. Princess, tell Ibn to answer the question honestly. At this time, Ibn guessed that if it was the original body, it would have jumped long ago. But from her point of view, she's definitely an outsider. So Ibn just calmly asked. Is that why the princess came to ask such silly questions? Princess came to visit me early this morning. I thought it was something important. Ibn's calm answer surprised the princess. She couldn't help but imagine the male and female as a very dangerous enemy, but she made her final struggle. Excited to get up and question themselves. Do you believe that this behavior is unintentional? You are a wicked girl who will do anything to get the crown prince. It's not just the crown prince, even Duke Ayres will be embarrassed by your actions. If you don't want to continue damaging your reputation, just deal with these things. The princess provoked Ibn in order to provoke her. Because she wanted Ibn to jump. Destroy everything she hates like she used to. So he could kill the crown prince's lover. Princess Mireille of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Just then Ibn reached out to the princess. The princess thinks Ibn has taken the bait, but Ibn only forked the snack in front of him. Answer the princess's questions while eating. I didn't expect such rumors to spread. I'm sorry, but it doesn't seem to have anything to do with me, and the crown prince is not. Already have a lovely lover? No matter what I do, he shouldn't notice me. If something goes wrong, the princess should go to the crown prince herself and talk it over. Don't tire me out, an irrelevant person. Hearing this, the princess couldn't help but blush and shout at Ibn. Just then my brother came in. Warn the princess, enough is enough. If you hear one more word about your sister, I'm gonna kill you. The princess stared at Baden. Not long ago, she didn't recognize him as her sister, and now you're acting like a brother. But it's time for her to retreat. So she apologizes to her husband and daughter for not controlling her emotions, said a lot of things I shouldn't have, and then she gave Ibn a gift. She received it from His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. Brother impatiently let her explain clearly. The princess burst into tears and said this gift. Actually, it's a gift from the Crown Prince. I didn't know until I read the letter that came with it. I'm not trying to atone for today with this gift. I just want you to know that you mean no harm. Then the princess left. And after confirming that green tea is really gone, my brother asked me in disbelief and walked out. I can't believe I let this guy walk away unharmed. Ibn laughed when he heard this. She knew her brother was listening at the door. If I did something out of line, I'm afraid my brother can't stand it. Even if that's true, Iben is actually grateful that her brother showed up to help her clean up the mess, because what the princess said made her a little angry. If it was the original, the other party would probably never get out of bed. Then his brother suggested that he throw away the gift, but Ibn refused his brother's kindness, because she was very curious about what was inside. A man who can make a princess angry. Not long ago, the princess retreated from Ibanjan in disgrace, but in fact, she's secretly letting herself. The magician found the location of the bracelet, but to avoid suspicion, the princess did not immediately let the enchanter destroy the bracelet, just keep it staring, looking for a chance to destroy it. After solving the bracelet problem, the princess's only remaining problem was Ibn. Although I have been hearing rumors of male and female changes, but she and the crown prince never believed that people could change so easily. But after meeting the girls today, the other party is indeed not the evil girl Ibn I know, even falsely claiming that the gift was from the crown prince. Ibn also showed no signs of wavering. This time the princess gave me a gift, she's trying to impress the stupid aristocrats, and specially designed shower gel, because it makes the skin glow. And what the nobles call the sun. But if used regularly, it can cause ugly skin diseases. And that's when she can come in as the redeemer. Give them free drugs to cure skin diseases. So the nobles would praise themselves. Originally intended to tame males and females in the same way, but now the behavior of the male and female makes her unable to make sure the other person doesn't use bath lotion. Just as the princess was at her wit's end, the demon asks the princess if she doesn't want to help. Because he was watching Ibn when the princess was about to leave, he discovered that the other party was shrouded in a thick layer of black magic aura, thought the princess was trying to win him over. These words made the princess instantly enlightened. So he and his daughter are black magicians like her. It's the only way to explain how easily she found out about her plans. And the princess soon thought of a way to deal with the male and female. She's going to report this to the royal family. In order to become crown princess, even if they're of the same species, she won't show mercy. At this time, Iben opened the gift left by the princess. Inside was a letter written by the princess in forged crown prince handwriting. Looking at the letter, Iben was inexplicably angry with the scumbag crown prince again. It's understandable that the princess would come knocking. So she decided to throw away this expensive shower gel. Then the maid came in and told Iben about the recent cosmetic stores have agreed to cooperate in processing radia grass. Now you just have to decide what kind of product to make. Suddenly Iben looked at the bath lotion in his hand. I heard this shower gel is very popular among the aristocrats, and the demand for shower gel increases in summer. It's a perfect opportunity to capture the market, so Iben immediately decided to make a shower gel. And the maid noticed the bath lotion in Iben's hand. Is that the spring water of the sun in your hand? It's rumored that it can instantly transform skin, a treasure as smooth as silk. It's hard to buy these days. Iben was excited when he heard this, asking how much this thing costs. The little maid thought about it and guessed that a bottle now costs 10 million gold coins. Knowing that the bath lotion in your hand is more precious than gold, Iben suddenly dismissed the idea of throwing it away. Carefully put it back in the box. And I thought I'd find a chance to sell it. The maid asked if it was a gift from Duke Ayres. Iben immediately stopped what he was doing. I had this image of him putting hand cream on the Duke at the makeup shop. Thinking about the Duke and himself acting like they were dating. Shy Iben blushes. But she still claims she has nothing to do with the Duke. My daughter obviously doesn't believe that if she is herself, she will send gifts every day. After all, there's no reason why he shouldn't be attracted to this perfect male and female adult. Iben was flattered by the maid's sweet words. And then she suddenly saw. The maid's earrings burst into dazzling red light. Without thinking, Iben reached out to the maid. And took off that shiny earring. And then ran for the window like hell. The moment Iben threw the earring, she had calculated that no one would pass through the courtyard at this time, but the only thing missing is the variable. When the earrings fall squarely on Duke Ayres, Iben's brain, the whole rock machine, doesn't know what to do. A violent explosion was transmitted from the courtyard into the room. The smoke from the explosion made Iben cough. But she quickly remembered that the Duke was downstairs when the bomb was dropped. He hurried to the window and called the Duke's name. Then he saw the Duke standing where he was, sword raised, intact. Looks like he used his sword to defend himself against the blast. Iben was glad the Duke was not injured. but the next moment, he saw the Duke staring at him. Ibn remembered that he was a royal secret investigator. Maybe nothing is the biggest problem. She ran after him and took 2 steps back, thinking that when the time comes, he will say that he did not mean it. Will they forgive themselves? Are you okay? Ibn heard the maid's groans and ran to confirm her injuries. Then let her rest first. I have to go out and see the situation first, because Duke Ayres was affected by the explosion. Hearing this, the maid immediately became nervous, but Ibn assured her he was the one who dropped the bomb. I'll be right back, don't worry. However, after Ibn closed the door to the room, I'm gonna pick up speed and head for the yard. What if I read it 300 times? I'm fine with making trouble myself. And this time dropping bombs in front of a search officer? As soon as I came down the stairs, I realized that the door had already been opened, surrounded by a crowd of melon eaters. Ibn collapsed to the ground in an instant. This time it was really big. When Ibn came to the courtyard, everyone needs time to make room for little Master Ibn. And they didn't think they'd be interested. The indifferent male and female of the family will appear here. Ibn took advantage of this time to observe the courtyard, and found that it wasn't as messy as I thought. I was just a little relieved. The next moment, the yellow-haired guard comes out and explains, this explosion happened to be at the time of Duke Ayres' visit. Thanks to him absorbing the blast, to minimize the damage. He assured Ibn that he would. The culprits will be brought to justice. Ibn was the one responsible for the explosion. She pushed him away with her hand as she told him to get out of the way. Strong strange force makes yellow hair soul out of body. At this time, surrounded by melon-eating masses, Duke Ayres noticed Ibn coming towards her. So he greeted her warmly with moldy flowers. Ibn did not expect the Duke to stop him directly. She hasn't come up with an excuse yet. Suddenly she broke out in a cold sweat, because under her influence, the Duke was smiling at himself strangely. The melon-eating crowd saw this scene and said that the male daughter and the Duke were good partners. Ibn thought that the Duke was staring at him. He threw half his face awkwardly and asked the Duke if he was hurt. I'm fine, but I didn't see it coming. So I accidentally ruined your roses. Ibn was a little surprised. Why did he send flowers to himself? I thought maybe the Duke had a habit of not coming home empty-handed. As his blind date, it's polite to accept it. So she took the flower from the Duke's hand. You said the flowers were for me, so I took them. These flowers are perfect for decorating the room. When the Duke heard that Ibn wanted to decorate the room, he immediately said that he would buy some more flowers. Ibn hastened to refuse to ask the reason for the visit. When I heard that the other party was invited to dinner by his father, and look at the sun in the sky, I was so stupid I could only laugh. His Grace is early. At this time, the captain of the guard came to the side of the 2 people and saluted. He asked them if they had any clues about the explosion in their home. He had already asked Duke Ayres. But he said he didn't know anything, and there's no evidence at the scene to support it. Ibn was surprised that the Duke did not expose himself. The Duke shrugged and looked like he had done something good and asked for praise. Unfortunately, Ibn doesn't understand it, so the Duke asked the captain of the guard to investigate the others first. Then the Duke asked Ibn to take him to the reception room. Ibn panicked and thought the Duke was blackmailing him. Although she was grateful that the Duke did not make her a troublemaker in public. But she's still worried about what's coming next. Ibn then took the Duke to her private reception room. Thinking that if there's something going on, it's better to settle it privately with the Duke. But the Duke went straight to the window and said, there's a lot of fallout from this explosion. Ask if Ibn is hurt. And Ibn remembered that he was standing at the window. And he didn't get hurt. Ibn told the Duke he was fine. And thanked him for covering for me. I'm sorry about the explosion. The Duke muttered, mistake. I thought they didn't believe me. Ibn explained in detail that something was wrong with his artifact, and threw it outside in a hurry, and the Duke happened to be passing by. It means you found out your bomb was going to explode, so you threw it outside. Then why don't you use defensive magic? Ibn's nervous heart stopped beating. As expected of a royal investigator, he was so keen to catch his own flaws. At this point, Ibn was completely in a bind, at a loss, and the Duke was closing in on her. Just when she was about to tell the truth, she didn't know magic. The Duke asked Ibn, did you deliberately throw a bomb at me? She wanted to come clean about her magical memory loss. but then her vulnerability would spread. The enemies you provoked before will follow. But if we do nothing, it's like admitting to the fact that the Duke was murdered. Then maybe father and brother will be back, because he exposed himself and alienated himself again. For a moment Ibn was caught in a dilemma. After much thought, she decided to confess her symptoms. But before she could say it, the Duke saw Ibn's dilemma and took the lead in expressing his opinion. You must be doing this to test me. Ibn is full of question marks. Suspect the Duke was blown up by himself. It turns out that the Duke, after learning that he was more than just curious about Ibn, he decided to be the most special fish in Ibn's fish pond. Because he never leaves his territory. Little is known about Ibn's past. So to make up for the time he and Ibn didn't spend together, the Duke began a frantic search for information about Ibn. But as I got to know Ibn better, the more he felt that Ibn's unconventional behavior hid Ibn's crazy love for the crown prince, but deep down, the Duke thinks the crown prince is inferior to him. All he lacked was a chance to prove it to Ibn. So when the Duke saw the red glow from the earring, he's not scared. There's just joy and panic. He thought it was a test given to him by Ibn. Prince Beijing is a master swordsman like him. And in the past, the crown prince helped Cordria defend himself against Ibn's bombs, so, as Ibn's suitor. And it's a skill that you should have. So the Duke reassured Ibn. No matter what the reason, I will not blame my parents. See the Duke acting like a masochist? Ibn invited the Duke to sit down and talk so he could clear the air. Then Ibn asked the Duke what he meant by experiment. The Duke shook his glass calmly. He glanced at the sword beside him. Don't you want to confirm my strength? Then he smiled and asked Ibn. I think it's about the same. At this moment, Ibn looked nervously at the Duke's sword, and kept searching for what the Duke is talking about. Maybe the Duke was talking about the incident where she dropped the bomb on Cordelia. The crown prince protected Cordelia. But what does that have to do with the experiment? Suddenly it occurred to Ibn. The Duke may have guessed that he knew his identity as a royal searcher. So he mistakenly thought he was deliberately creating the same situation. To see if he's the crown prince's secret investigator. And the Duke's calmness was actually a silent oppression of himself. The idea was to tell Ibn that there was no way he could escape his surveillance. Ibn's face grew uglier. Then he apologized sincerely to the Duke. I am indeed testing the Duke. But now I really regret it. I beg your grace's forgiveness. And he begged the Duke not to tell the man about it. But the Duke suddenly asked Ibn sullenly. Who's that? When he heard the name of the crown prince, the Duke put down his glass. I don't understand why you mention the crown prince here. Ibn subconsciously thought it was the duty of the investigator to report to the crown prince. It's too much to ask for and test myself. So he told the Duke not to take it to heart. The Duke stood up. And then I sat down next to Ibn. A solemn promise that Ibn himself would not tell anyone about this. And handed over what he had to Ibn. Ibn was surprised and took what the Duke had handed him. It was the earring bomb she lost not long ago. Ibn did not expect the Duke to do this for her. Abandoning his duties as a search officer, ask each other why. The Duke only said that he was very distressed to see the appearance of his daughter, and it's between them anyway. There's no need to tell anyone. Somehow, Ibn blushed at the Duke's words. She couldn't tell if the Duke was just being gentle, or because he actually believed what he said. After that, the Duke said he wanted to take care of the guard captain. He pulled out the communication device he had always carried with him. And crush it. He'll tell them his comms set off the explosion. Ibn wondered if the Duke had just told. Don't they know anything? Duke Ayres was confident enough to reassure Ibn. Even though I'm just a Radner in front of my daughters. But in front of everyone else, it's the head of House Ayres. See, the Duke made up lies for himself. Ibn's heart thumped. It seems that the Duke is really only so special to her. But the next moment the Duke asked Ibn intimately. Can you grant him a request? Not long ago, my brother learned that there had been a terrible bomb attack in his house, so he asked the captain of the guard what had happened. According to the captain of the guard, Duke Ayres, A malfunction in the magic item he was carrying caused the explosion. Hearing this, his brother heaved a sigh of relief, asking about the Duke's safety and whereabouts at the moment. Didn't notice the captain of the guard was shivering when he said that. The captain of the guard told his brother that at this moment the Duke and the young lady were walking in the woods. My brother is not calm in an instant. He didn't want his sister to get carried away again. I told Ivan not to go near the Duke. Father invited him to dinner. Each one of them ignored his own words. Over here, the Duke is taking credit for Ibn. I've ordered the captain of the guard to stop investigating. In return for your kindness, Ibn promised himself that he could promise the Duke anything. The Duke thought for a second. He looked at Ibn beside him with a flushed face. Ibn was embarrassed to see it. If you want to borrow money from me, you don't have one. But the Duke wouldn't waste a rare opportunity on something like this. He gently brushed Ibn's hair against his ear. I hope they call themselves Lud next. It's a nickname for the Duke. He hoped that Ibn and himself would not be so awkward with each other. And Ibn's face flushed and his heart throbbed because of the Duke's intentional physical contact. She found herself beginning to lose track of the Duke. But she still has plenty of confidence in her reputation as a mean girl and her ugly appearance. I don't think the Duke really has feelings for her. So he nodded and immediately shouted a Lud. However, this sudden address made the Duke freeze in place. He didn't think it would be so powerful to be nicknamed by someone he loved. The Duke kept savoring the sweet taste in his heart. Interrupted by a distant call. I saw my brother running towards me, panting. Fortunately, Ibn was there to keep him from falling. But as soon as my brother catches his breath, let Ibn leave first. He wants a private chat with Duke Ayres. Ibn is worried that there will be a sure field between his brother and the Duke, and I don't want to leave. But what she didn't expect. Duke Ayres is willing to talk to his brother alone. Helpless Ibn can only return to the mansion first, after Ibn leaves. The brother warned the Duke sharply not to approach his sister. The Duke just listened calmly. And then he gave his charming smile. I understand why the little Duke would say that. I have no intention of hurting Ibn. Brother Time was attracted by the Duke's charm again. I think the Duke's words are sincere and convincing. Before he could react, the Duke leaned over him. And then the Duke grabbed his brother's shoulder. I hear the young Duke is very knowledgeable about magic theory and good at teaching. It turns out that the Duke wanted to be with Ibn properly. I investigated my brother and father early. Know how to please two people. At the dinner afterwards, Duke Ayres and his brother's father had a good talk. Ibn wondered what the Duke had given them. See the Duke at the dinner table bragging. Ibn felt he was a universe away from them. Then Ibn suddenly heard a soft murmur. The maids outside the door are sighing with emotion that the Duke is like a son-in-law who comes to propose marriage. Ibn thought it was ridiculous. If I am really his partner, I should always care about myself. Instead of drinking and talking to my brothers and fathers, Ibn felt a little sad when he thought of this. All she remembers is getting dressed and coming to the restaurant. Duke Ayres stood up. Compliment yourself that your clothes fit well, but we haven't spoken since. Not long ago, he asked himself to call him that. After that, my brother and father were already drunk with cheese tincture, but Ibn covered his face in embarrassment, because the two of them only had half a glass together. She couldn't stand two drunks talking nonsense. So he got up and said goodbye. After leaving the restaurant, Ibn came to the courtyard to kill time. She doesn't understand how she's feeling right now. Then a man appeared behind Ibn. Ibn nervously turned around. And found out that he was a child who was very close to his maid. Ask them what they want. But the maid bowed to Ibn and said she had something to ask of him. See the maid trembling all over. Ibn knew that even though the maid was scared, she still wanted to help herself. Then he saw the maid kneeling and begging Ibn to sell her the spring of the sun. Because her sister has a serious skin disease, only the spring water of the sun can cure this disease. Not long ago, I heard that my husband and daughter received a bottle. If you don't want to use it, please sell it to yourself. I'll pay you back for the rest of my life. Ibn, however, was surprised to hear this. She didn't expect the sun's spring water to have such an effect. How do you compete with it? So she told the maid in front of her that she would not sell you the spring of the sun. The maid heard this and knew that her request had crossed the line. I can only keep talking to Ibn. But Ibn's next words gave her hope. Ibn gently wiped away the tears from the corners of the maid's eyes. I'm interested in your sister's story. Show her to me. The maid asked anxiously what Ibn had brought his sister for. Ibn asked the other party's last name. Is Roni an aristocrat? She heard that 10 years ago, 2 daughters of the Roni family were evicted from their home. Finally, a cousin inherited the family. Are we talking about you 2 sisters? The maid who heard this seemed to recall a terrible past. Admit that she and her sister are direct descendants of the Roni family, and now I live with my mom in the suburbs. Your sister took the Roni Air course. He must be very clear-headed. The reason I called her is because I have a favor to ask her, and, of course, there's a reward. If you agree to these conditions, I will offer you the spring of the sun. The maid looked up at Ibn in surprise. She didn't expect her daughter to be so merciful. Then Ibn bent down and reached out to lift the maid from the ground. You need to tell your sister the details of the partnership. The maid gently placed her hand on Ibn's. It's like he grabbed a lifeline. A firm promise. We'll go find my sister tomorrow morning. On the other hand, the Duke's dinner party is coming to an end. The father was carried away by the servants first, and the brother told the Duke he'd think about it. It turns out that not long ago in the woods, the Duke asked his brother to be his magic teacher, if you don't hurt your sister. The Duke asked his brother in confusion, do you look like that kind of person? Of course not. The Duke is handsome and gentlemanly to anyone, to live up to the title of the most handsome man in the empire, but that's the problem. Then he looked at the Duke in amazement. To explain why Ibn was obsessed with the crown prince, in fact, these two never communicated at all, just because. The crown prince accidentally knocked into Ibn. The smile on your face when you apologize is sunny enough. Anyway, that's how Ibn is. It's easy to trust other people's children, said his brother advised the Duke that if it wasn't so easy to fall in love, let's not let Ibn leave any room early. Then the brother suddenly said that Ibn should not have any thoughts about the Duke. Because not long ago he happened to hear Ibn to grind the Duke's blind date gift into powder and drink it. At this moment, the Duke was shocked. His heart felt like it was broken. However, the opposite brother still does not understand the situation. Ask the Duke if it is Westlake Longjing. The Duke doesn't speak, it's just grunting, red wine. Drink one bottle after another. Even the waiter who poured the wine had to stand by the Duke at all times. After the feast the Duke went alone to the courtyard to sober up. But before he knew it, his eyes were turning red. He couldn't understand why Ibn had said he loved the bracelet. And then you have to grind it up. He sat down on the ground lost. Is it possible for Ibn to call himself a mere instrument? Is it because you asked her? Is this a disguised form of coercion? The Duke smelled the hand cream from Ibn. I feel more and more like everything is my own wishful thinking. Ibn was always careful in front of himself. Does she feel burdened? So I've been applying it, okay? But I just want to be a fish in her fish pond. The next morning the Duke took his adjutant to practice early, about learning magic. The adjutant thought the Duke was crazy. Because using magic is against the rules of the sword family. But the Duke was adamant. Now I'm the head of the heirs family. Policies should also change with the times. See adjutant still a pair of incomprehensible appearance. The Duke suddenly picked up his wooden sword and rushed at the adjutant. After the adjutant managed to withstand the Duke's attack, the Duke sprang to his feet, then a white light flashed across the adjutant's neck. The aide-de-camp broke out in a cold sweat. The Duke smiled and explained that this was the power of magic. Now I can only control the parts of my hand. If there are more options in the future, would there be a big difference? But the adjutant told the truth. You're just making excuses to mix with boys and girls. I've never seen a beautiful woman before. And now all of a sudden, it makes me very suspicious. Is the Duke under the spell of male and female enchantment? The Duke can't hear this. Ask the adjutant if he thinks he can't tell. True feelings and fake feelings created by magic. The adjutant defended himself in a panic. It's because there's been a rumor recently. To win the crown prince back. Deliberately using his grace. It reminded the Duke of last night at Ibn's house. Ibn was walking in the courtyard last night, thinking the dinner party would have ended early. So I quickened my pace and prepared to go back to my room to rest. On the way, I suddenly met a drunk Duke sitting on the roadside. Ibn was taken aback. I thought it was another monster sent by the black magician to attack me. It wasn't until the Duke picked up his head that Ibn realized it was Duke Ayres, so he called out softly to Ludnane. But the Duke stared at Ibn awkwardly. She's a little confused. Then Duke Lud whispered. In an instant, Ibn became a steam girl. I didn't know the drunken Duke was so cute. She leaned over and asked Lud what he was doing here. The Duke simply stood up and calmly watched Ibn. And Ibn was watching the Duke as well. And found his face flushed. It was a stark contrast to the calm Duke on a normal day. The girl couldn't help but want to pinch his little face. Then the Duke asked the question that had troubled him most of the evening. Did you really like my blind date gift? Ibn looked puzzled. I heard the Duke explain that because you said you'd grind it up and drink it. Ibn complained to himself that his brother's mouth was too wide, and at the same time wanted to defend himself. Although I did say it, it was a misunderstanding. See, Ibn admits that the Duke seems increasingly lost, but Ibn can only coax the Duke himself to like gifts. There are other reasons for saying that. Just when Ibn was trying to find another excuse, I accidentally saw the Duke's aggrieved and sad appearance. It made Ibn feel guilty. The Duke has always helped himself without prejudice. And yet, she made him so sad, so Ibn was determined to tell each other his secret. The next moment, the Duke signals Ibn Shin. He regained his former composure. And tell Ibn someone's watching them. Ibn followed the Duke's gaze. And found out that the room was my brother's. She subconsciously thought her brother was forbidding her from dating the Duke again, so he told the Duke not to take it to heart. But the Duke's eyes were full of anger. Tell Ibn it's an unpleasant look. Determined to find out for himself. But Ibn didn't want the Duke and his brother to be embarrassed. She subconsciously grabbed the Duke's hand, and threw the Duke against the wall. With a bang, he stopped the other party from leaving. Ibn looked nervous and told the Duke to calm down. She'll send security to investigate. The Duke was stunned by the sudden thump. He reached out his trembling hand to catch Ibn. But in the end, I still dare not disturb each other. Tell Ibn he knows. Ibn, on the other hand, was smiling. She found the Duke especially lovely tonight. You seem stubborn, but you listen to yourself. Then Ibn suddenly noticed himself. He's holding on to the Duke's wrist. Frightened, she hurriedly let go of her apology. I was being rude. And the Duke saw his own red wrist go blank. As a sword master, he was completely suppressed by Ibn. He stared at Ibn with fascination. My sweetheart is amazing. At this time, Ibn was worried and asked if the Duke was angry. She doesn't know she's asking herself that question. Even the Duke giggled and asked Ibn to do it again. Then the Duke asked Ibn what he was about to say. Ibn told the Duke it was a top secret. Never tell anyone. But the Duke heard it was a top secret. He immediately went to Ibn's side nervously and whispered a reminder. Since it's an important secret, don't tell it here. And you don't have to tell me. But he's not thinking straight. Intimacy is flooding Ibn's brain. She asked the Duke stiffly what he was going to do next. Do you want to go for a cup of tea or a month? Thinking it's too late to do anything. So Ibn asked the Duke if he wanted to sleep with him for the night.